Hey everybody, welcome back. Stephen here, Northwest Small Batch Brewing. It is time for another brew talk. I am deep in brewing several different things, so you should see that coming your way pretty soon. In the meantime, I want to rehash a topic that I think is, like, for me, one of the most important things a brewer can understand but doesn't usually do. And there seems to be also some retaliation or something with it, where you explain, look, here's the thing, and then they're like, I don't do that, and it's fine every time. I'm like, really? Is it though? Here's the thing. The question comes up all the time between homebrewers, new and old, which is my beer done? How do I know if my beer is done? That sort of thing. Well, a lot of the time, the answer you get from the crowd is, if you take a gravity... Well, the first answer actually that you get is, if the bubbling in the airlock is stopped, the beer is done. Well, there's a lot of things that can cause that bubbling. Obviously, when it's going fiercely, that's the CO2 escaping from the fermentation process. But fermentation slows down, and the bubbling slows down, and you have changes in temperature, which can change, the gas and the pressure between the outside and the inside of your fermenter. That can create bubbling. Look, I think we can all agree, I hope, that the activity in your airlock is never a good indication as to whether your beer is done. I don't even like the term done, saying whether a beer is done. Beer is never done. It's a constant thing that's always in progress. It's never really done, right? So here's the deal. You know that, fermentation, like the main part of fermentation usually happens within a few days of pitching your yeast. And then it can continue on for quite some time. I do have a general rule of thumb that I follow that not a lot of homebrewers actually seem to follow, but there are a few of us that do and have good results from it. So obviously the first step is take gravity readings. Take a gravity reading when you first pitch your yeast, and then take one when you're finished and you think you're ready to bottle, of course. But in the middle, if you want to know if your beer is done, you got to take a reading. Now, I know it's annoying. You have to open it. You have to take out a sample, put it in a, cylinder, take a measurement. You can't really put that beer back, so you drink it. But you don't want to keep taking samples, introducing potentially oxygen. And so there are other options if you really get into brewing. There is the tilt, and someone's going to tell me, I can't think of it. There's another, I think it's from the pill, right? From Kegland, that you can put in your beer. It's not super accurate. I'm going to be honest with you. I had one, and they're not super accurate. But depending on what you're using it for, I suppose it could be useful. It's a tool, right? You could also get... I'm not going to mention the name of it, but there's a device out there that's quite expensive. I have one because I do enough brewing that it's worth it to me, and it's really nice to have. But it will take a gravity reading almost with scientific perfection and it's a very small sample. The temperature can be a little warmer or colder than you usually have it, so it's pretty nice. But by the time you're taking gravity readings with a, traditional hydrometer, hopefully you've got enough alcohol in the beer that it's not going to introduce contaminants, and you're sanitizing and stuff. Anyway, if you take readings and they are the same over 2-3 days, then that means probably fermentation has stopped. That doesn't mean it can't start up again, or there's something else happening. It just means active, high Kreuzen fermentation is done. Does it mean your beer is done? Listen, one of my famous sayings, I need to make a couple t-shirts. One of them, which is, the fifth ingredient in beer is time. So the beer might be done fermenting, but it is not done maturation, we'll call it, okay? It hasn't matured yet. It isn't done with maturation, which is when the yeast reabsorbs flavors that it put into your beer. During fermentation, yeast puts compounds into your beer that don't smell and taste good. The nice thing about it is when the yeast is done its fermentation, it's finished that sort of its life cycle, it will reabsorb and suck those flavors back into itself. Which is why you don't want to leave beer on the yeast forever, because if that yeast breaks down, it's going to rupture and all that stuff will come out and go back into your beer. Anyway, so the point is, fermentation's done, but now you need to give it time to actually mature. Second saying I have that I need to make a t-shirt for is, what the yeast giveth, the yeast taketh away. So how long do you let it sit and mature? That just depends on you, the style of beer, how does it taste, all of those things. I will say that no one has ever said, right, that the first pour off of a keg is as good as the last pour. The last pour, always the best of that beer, because it's had time to sit, mature, and clarify, and all of that, right, and age. So my general rule of thumb, rather than trying to decide, should I start drinking this beer sooner than I usually do, or later, or do I need to give more time? Let's put a rule of thumb, 1 month. 1 month from yeast to mouth. That doesn't sound good, but what I'm saying is from the day you pitch the yeast to the day you actually pour it into your glass of drink, 1 month. Excuse me. So, you know, I generally do is I give it 3 weeks in the fermenter, and then I use a pressure rated fermenter. So I just take the fermenter at 3 weeks and move it into my kegerator, and I slow carb it on CO2 for another week, which gives it a full month. And then I just pour right off the fermenter because I have a floating dip tube, and it sat there for a week cold crashing anyway. So it seems to work just fine. I don't get any, you know, excess debris or anything. At any rate, a month is a good, solid number to go by, from pitching the yeast to taking that first drink of that first beer. That's kind of all I have to say about that. I just want to rehash that and say, you know, there are people that will say that they've made a beer and they're drinking it within a few days, maybe a week. But if they're telling you on YouTube that it tastes great and it's fantastic, they're lying. They're lying. It takes time. It's kind of like whiskey. If you know anything about whiskey, you can't fake time, right? When whiskey goes into a barrel to age, they have not found any way that works to speed that process up. Time just takes time. You have to be patient. Making beer is a patient person's pastime. PPP. It really is. And if you try to break that and start drinking it sooner, you're just not going to have as good quality of product. Sometimes it won't even taste good. It just varies. There is a brewer that I haven't seen actually post anything in a very long time, but in the words of the not heard from in a long time, Sarah Flora Brewing, I don't want to drink a beer that's less than a month old. It's too young, needs more time, needs to mature. And so she had that rule to let her beer age for a month before tapping into it. And I think it's worked well. Anyway, I hope that helps. I'll be back in another week with another video, another brew day, another whiskey tasting, something. And until then, get out there and brew. Cheers.